So today is Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati Thakur's disappearance day celebration, and therefore perhaps you could tell us about Bhaktisiddhanta, the importance of him historically, the importance of his teachings moving forward for the Western mission.
Well, starting with Bhaktisiddhanta's father, Bhaktivinod Thakur, this eternal tradition, Krishna consciousness, was brought into the modern world. And so if you look at the scope and the complexity of the institution that Bhaktivinod Thakur, great devotee of Bhaktivinod, the institution he created, there's some interesting features. As far as I know, there were no ashrams, there were no sannyasis. It was really just sort of a householder association where they, not a club, but they would meet regularly and so on, and put out literature. But then Bhaktisiddhanta really took Lord Chaitanya's movement to an entirely different level. I mean, if you go back, say, 500 years, there are many pure devotees, and there are just incredible spiritual pastimes from the spiritual world. So it's a very different historical moment. It's a stage when all these Nitya Siddhas are coming down. And by the time Bhaktivinod comes and then Bhaktisiddhanta, everything's different. Everything's changed. The world is just entirely different. Especially even if you look at India back then, the British, obviously the arrival of the British greatly accelerated the modernization of India. So Bhaktisiddhanta was born into an extraordinarily interesting, just fascinating world where you have eternal Bharatvarsha, you have all these holy places and pure devotees traveling to these holy places, and so the movement is, at one point, the movement is sort of mostly made up of pure devotees. And that's why one thing scholars have noted, that they didn't have much organizational structure, because you don't have to organize pure devotees. And so then Bhaktisiddhanta, among his many great contributions, he actually brought Lord Chaitanya's movement even more fully into the modern world. Bhaktivinod Thakur, because he wasn't dealing so much with brahmacharis or more mature society. So Bhaktisiddhanta really took Bhaktivinod's movement and brought it to the next stage of modernization. So you get ashrams, you get sannyasis. You get not only ashrams in the sense of brahmacharis and of course grihastas, and then vanaprasthas and sannyasis. You get that, but you also get just this deep interaction with the world. Well, Bhaktisiddhanta, Prabhupada's guru, what really strikes me about him is his purity. Clearly a pure devotee of Krishna. He has all the symptoms of a pure soul serving God in this world. And so there's that individual, personal nature of Bhaktisiddhanta, which is so impressive. And then there is the very practical side where he's organizing, growing institution, organizing it, guiding it, inspiring it. And he does things that have never been done, at least since Lord Chaitanya came, like having sannyasis, Vaishnava sannyasis. That's something that Bhaktivinoda didn't do. Vaishnava sannyasis who go and preach everywhere. And of course, another thing is Bhaktisiddhanta was so keenly aware of the modern world. He really knew what was going on. And he was He sometimes wore Western clothes, which, as you know, some devotees know you should never do that, even though the great acharyas did. Slightly sarcastic there. So Bhaktisiddhanta sometimes wore Western clothes. He wrote in English. He wrote brilliantly in English. And he was very conscious of the world. He wasn't satisfied just do a little program here, a little center there. What you find in all these great acharyas, Bhaktivinoda, Bhaktisiddhanta, and our Prabhupada, is this very deep awareness of what's going on in the world, the Western world, power dynamics, and that desire to reach the Western world, because that's the way culture flows at that point in history. Culture is not flowing from east to west; it's going from west to east, and so. And then Bhaktisiddhanta and his father, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, wrote some very interesting articles where Bhaktisiddhanta acknowledges the importance of the Western world, and then he begins to speak in a Western academic way. So he's speaking in a Western academic way often. He dress also more Western. So he's actively trying to integrate Lord Chaitanya's movement into the modern world.
Anything to glean from his teachings that are relevant to the preaching mission moving forward in the West?
But yes, actually, Bhaktivinoda and Bhaktisiddhanta wrote some essays together. It's interesting because in their essays they say that the lowest kind of Vaishnava, you know this verse, the lowest level of Vaishnavism is when one identifies a Vaishnava with outer symbols, a certain way of dress, just certain symbols, and that's what makes you a devotee. Cut your hair a certain way, it makes you a devotee. And Bhakti Siddhanta says that's the lowest level of Vaishnava. Whereas more advanced devotees, they really are going straight to the soul. They're going to the soul. So, because Bhaktivinoda and Bhaktisiddhanta together, really, first Bhaktivinoda, they did something that had never been done. Because in the even scholars like Joseph O'Connell, that great scholar of Gaudiya Vaishnavism, passed away many years ago, but he noted that in the first generations of Lord Chaitanya's movement, it was remarkable for the lack of bureaucracy, the lack of telling someone, okay, you have to do this or do that.
And during the time of Lord Chaitanya, there was remarkably little.
Oh, yes. There was very little, it wasn't really institutionalized because they were all pure devotees, so what's there to manage? But then, as time goes on, it really does need to be organized into an institution because that's the way the world is now. The world is increasingly corporate at all levels. And so Bhaktivinoda Thakur begins to institutionalize Lord Chaitanya's movement, which had never happened. And then Bhaktisiddhanta, of course, brings it to another stage. But what's interesting is that both father and son, Bhaktivinoda and Bhaktisiddhanta, were very conscious of the dangers of institutionalization. They did firmly declare that it's necessary, that's part of spiritual life. But they're aware of the dangers, that it could just develop into a mundane hierarchy, people being judged by their dress, by the way they cut their hair. And so Bhaktivinoda and Bhaktisiddhanta talk a lot about this. And then what do you get? You get in 2024, almost 25, you get devotees who will sometimes say exactly what Bhaktisiddhanta said is not what we say.
While they acknowledge the importance of institutions, at the same time they were aware.
Yeah, they were afraid that it would just become, they were afraid that by institutionalization it would become superficial. It would become bureaucratic in the negative sense. And so that's why they say that the worst way, the worst way to identify who's really a Vaishnava is just by outer dress or by other symbols. And that this is not the sign of a real devotee. It's just because anyone can put on that little, anyone can adopt these symbols or put on a certain kind of dress. The real proof that someone's an advanced Vaishnava is their Krishna consciousness and their ability to help others become Krishna conscious.
What about one statement by Prabhupada about Bhaktisiddhanta? He said, Bhaktisiddhanta came to this world to execute the mission of Lord Chaitanya. Mahaprabhu, he executed it, and when it was required, he left this place and went to another place to do the same business. This is in 77.
Right.
But Krishna says in the Gita, the one who understands the nature of my appearance.
Well, because he's serving Krishna. Yeah, does not come back to this world. So a devotee who's a personal associate of Krishna is not in the material world. It's like Prabhupada gives the example, let's say a government attorney may go into the prison to speak to a prisoner, but the attorney's not a prisoner. So Krishna's saying you never become a prisoner in this world, which is true. But if you come to this world just as an agent from the government trying to help people to regain their real life, that's not material life. Yes, the gulf of difference. Pure devotees like Bhaktisiddhanta and Bhaktivinoda are a very different platform. They're serving Krishna at a different level. For them, going back to Godhead or not, it's a very different stage of life.